I tried to Monday, I left a message, he never got back. I watched him last week. That's why I called him, like, it's older. Okay. So I'll call you back. I think that, one more, Carrie
Because I wanted to keep microphones.
Calling meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Would you all please rise as you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, before we get going, I just want to say a few housekeeping things. I think we still have some agendas up there if you didn't get them, or share with a neighbor. I know a lot of you aren't always here at select board meetings, so I just want to make sure everybody's clear on when they're speaking and when to speak. So if you're here to speak for a specific item, please do wait until that agenda item. There is a time for public comment, but that should be for things that are not already on the agenda. So for example, if you're here to speak to the sewer rates, please wait until the public hearing for the sewer rates. If you're here to talk about a business license, please wait until the business license. Everyone will get a chance to speak. We will have time limits and then go around again if we need to, but we will not be shutting anybody down in terms of where you live or why you're here. So I want to make that very clear. We do ask that you don't simply repeat points that have already been made. I'll say a little bit more about that later, but please keep that in mind. Just this room is probably going to get hot, and I know there's a lot of people who want to speak. When you come up to speak, if you could please go kind of right behind Terry, right underneath the speaker there, and face this way so that everybody in the room and the owl, for those online, can hear and see you. And please speak louder than you think you should so that everybody can hear. And please state your name for the record. I think that's it for housekeeping, so we're gonna get going. All right, number 2, approval of treasurer's warrants. Payroll warrants for June 23rd and 30th, FY23, and July 7th, FY24. Open for motion.
Move to approve payroll warrants June 23 and 30, FY23, and July 7, FY24.
Second. Then moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion?
Just asking, the 24 is from last year.
There's 2 from last year, 1 from this year. Because we haven't met in
Yeah, July 7, 2024.
That's
FY,
FY24.
fiscal year 24.
Oh, fiscal year. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, calling for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Accounts payable warrants for June 27th and June 29th for FY23 and June 5th and 11th for FY24. Open for motion.
Move to approve accounts payable warrants of June 27 and June 29, FY23, and July 5 and 11 of FY24.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Number 3, approval of the minutes for June 20th, 2023. Open for a motion.
Move to approve the minutes from June 20, 2023.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. Any questions, corrections, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. We do not have any special presentations or awards. Committee appointments, Wiscasset Water District, Jefferson Slack, and Daniel Averill. Open for a motion.
I move to approve, just because I have to do that job. He deserves it.
Motion's been made,
Second.
been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Wiscasset Ordinance Review Committee, Alan Cohen, open for motion.
I move to approve Al Cohen to the Wisconsin Ordinance Review Committee.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Wiscasset Budget Committee, Heather Jones and Robert Nesbit, open for motion.
I move to approve Heather Jones and Robert Nesbitt to the appointment of the Budget Committee.
Second.
And moved and seconded, to see any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Wiscasset Comprehensive Plan Committee, Heather Jones, Peter Eden, and Mary Finn, open for motion.
I move to approve Heather Jones, Peter Eden, and Mary Finn appointments to the Comprehensive Plan Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Number 6, public hearing for the proposed sewer rate increase. One clarification here before we get going. This is only for the sewer. The town does not control the water rates. I think there's been some confusion about that because it's on the same bill. But just be aware that that's not what we're talking about tonight, and we don't control those rates. So I think Chris Cassette is on here if you want to go complain to him about your water rates. But I just want to make that clarification that that's not something we're doing tonight. Open for motion to open the public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing on the proposed sewer rate.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Hearing is open at 6:06 PM. Rob, would you like to start us off, and then we'll open it up for public comment?
Are you okay?
Yep.
My name is Robert Lawley, and I am the superintendent of the sewer department in Wiscasset. And the reason we're here discussing the sewer rate increase is because there's been a lot of price increases on things. Heading into last year, the last fiscal year, we have always been running way in the red when it comes to the comparison of the sewer rates versus the income provided towards the budget. That amount that's budgeted by the sewer department. We forecast the budget, and then, gee whiz, you're hoping that the sewer rates pay for all of that. With us being an enterprise account, we're supposed to pay all of our operating expenses out of sewer goods. And prior to my arrival here 4 years ago, they never even came close to matching the budget number with the sewer bill revenues. So about a year ago, we had a study done that said we needed to increase the income for the sewer department 46% to match the forecasted budget, which was approved on the town warrant. And that amount was $846,000. And we did have that increase instituted. And I am thrilled to say it almost came out right on the money for matching sewer bill income to pay for that $846,000. It actually came up about $15,000 short, but our impact fees, connection fees, and other things made up for that difference. So for the first time in 4 years, we had the income match the projected budget. Now, in previous years, that shortfall was as much as $211,000. In the past the 3 years before that, I think there was one that was 150,000 and another that was like 140,000 short. But anyway, I'm excited to say that the study that was done by Maine Rural Water to assess what we would need to do to match the budget came right in on the money. Well, anyway, as all of you know, everything under the sun is going up, almost exponentially, particularly things like fuel. And you may have read in the newspaper about the sludge disposal problem that all the sewer plants And what happened was where we were initially going to be disposing of the sewage sludge that we produce on our belt press over there at the sewer plant, just like all the other sewer plants. We used to truck it to Juniper Ridge landfill. They said, hey, you have to landfill it, you're not allowed to use it as compost, where we were taking it. But what happened was the landfills couldn't handle the amount of sludge that was now being sent by law to be landfilled. So what they were doing was, hey, we have to do something with it. We're gonna truck it to Canada and you're gonna pay the expenses of trucking it to Canada. And that's what happened. My tipping fee went from approximately $144 a ton to over $228 a ton. So the way that that works out, that was about $1,000 a month more than we were normally spending. So anyway, among the other things that are going way up, you may know that the town is getting 4 more new backup power generators for our pumping stations. We got 4 a year and a half ago, and now we got 4 more coming. And that's wonderful because they'll turn on and prevent sewer overflows when the power goes out. And you never know when a car hits a pole, whether the lightning knocks out half the town. We don't want any sewer overflows, and that protects, it's unsanitary to have sewage running in the streets. Well, anyway, we have 4 more generators that have been ordered. We have 4 installed, permanent ones, they work great. There's 4 more that are coming in November. And one of my expenses that looks like it's going over the top is the fuel oil expense, which is the same fuel oil that we use to heat the building and the sewer plant. That's the type of stuff that goes into the tanks for these generators. And the tanks are between 250 gallons and up down to 125. So I have 2 250-gallon tanks that I have to fill and 225-gallon ones that I have to fill when those generators are on. So if you're looking at sort of line items, you're gonna see, well, why is his fuel oil expenses so high? That's because we're prepared to fill those tanks when those generators arrive. Other things that have gone up, the DEP mandated that we have a 4th employee over there. So we now have a 4th employee, which is wonderful, but not just salaries, but insurance and all of the things, uniforms, all that stuff adds up. So we're now budgeting for the 4th employee. Anyway, so we had the same Maine Rural Water accountant go over our expenses, our projected expenses for 2023, 2024, that fiscal year. And where our budget last year, ending on June 30th, was $846,000, roughly the same expenses, the same, without a whole lot of big changes. It's now $919,000. So to meet that number, their Maine Rural Water's accountant is recommending an 8.6% increase in the sewer rates. To try to avoid being public enemy number 1, I hate doing this, but you kind of have to do it. And what I don't want to do is take the budget, which has been approved on warrant already, and then have to be working behind the 8 ball already with all the increases that we projected, during this fiscal year, they're now instituted. I'm asking the select board and the town to allow this increase to go through. I know it's more pain, and I know that it's more struggle for the average citizen in this town. But if we could meet that budget, that would be terrific. So where, for example, we're talking, let's see my numbers here. Where you used to pay $114 and change for the minimum quarterly bill, that's the minimum, 0 to 900 cubic feet. You'd be paying 123 and change, and I'm sorry, I can't find my paper, as a new minimum. So that would be going up from 114 and change to 123. Where you pay over and above the 900 minimum, every 100 cubic feet additional was $14 and change. We'd be paying $23 and change now for that increase. people who have the monthly bill, we were paying $38 as the minimum. And I think that's going up to 42.
41.27.
41.27.
Rob, the last figure shouldn't have been 23, it should have been 15,
Oh, okay, I apologize.
from 1465 to 1591.
But to 1591, I apologize. Thank you. One of the things that she does recommend across the board, she said, well, you should increase all of your little categories, whether it's the minimums and the hundreds over and all that. It should go up 8.6%. And of course, that's not what we did last year to get the extra 46%. We did things like begin year-round billing for seasonal customers. Anybody who is seasonal, we're becoming just like Booth Bay and Yarmouth and other communities, where if you have a home, if you're only there for 2 months out of the year, you still pay a minimum when you're not there. And we weren't doing that before, but that's how we were able to generate 46% more income without raising everything 46%. Now that we've sort of established a bit of baseline, we can increase, well, sad to say, but 8.6%. One of the things that is on our little docket is for campers. We used to have campers, just for people traveling with their RVs, and they could call up and they could dump 50 gallons or less over there at the sewer plant. And we used to have a price of $15. I think it went up to $20. But with the increase last year, it went up to $38. And that killed the camper trade. Not that we had a lot of them to begin with, because we'd have maybe 15 or so every year. But people now call up and they say, oh yeah, we have a camper, we'd like to dump over there. What's the price? And existing price is $38. And they're like, I'm not coming there, thank you very much. Click, they would hang up. So what I would like to ask is if, despite the other increases, if we could lower the camper dumping rate, because our camper dumpings have gone to zero because it's $38. And I know I was talking with Pam earlier, and she said that so many of the other places charge $15 or $20 to dump a camper. And I have no objection to that if the town and the select board was okay with it, because I think it would generate some business, and it wouldn't make us seem like, oh, those guys are so expensive over there, why should I go there? And we have had a number of phone calls already this summer about it. So I'd love to be able to say, well, yes, we have had this increase, but I'd love to say that we lowered the rate for the camper dumping fee. So that's why I'm coming before the town tonight. I know there's probably gonna be a lot of comment on it, but I wanted to get it out there. Maine Rural Water does these sorts of things. They go to communities and examine their finances and see whether they need an increase or could you have a decrease. Well, there's nothing that's going down. So anyway, that's why I'm here tonight. And I hope that that you understand and that the select board would be willing to put this forward. So thank you very much. And I can answer any questions. Yes.
Thank you. Oh, no, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna have to ask you to come up, state your name and
Do you
do all
want me to
that.
Should I sit or?
No, and I have a question for you.
Yes, sorry, Pam, I'm gonna have you, because people on Zoom can't hear or see you, so. Thank you.
Pam Logan. So I just want to understand correctly that on the June warrant that we all voted on, you were
Yes.
approved for a budget.
Yes.
And this, you're asking for this above that.
No, this would match the new number. This would match that new number that was approved on the town warrant.
So we've already approved the town warrant.
Yes.
Okay, so the 8.6 is what?
8.6% will match that budget. Well, you see the number, 919,000?
So in order
That's our
for you to
projected
make
budget.
your budget,
Yes.
you need to do that. So
Yes.
you didn't budget correctly?
Oh, we did budget correctly, but they only did the study a month before.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that was the timing on it. Should I sit? Sure. Okay.
Is there anyone else who'd like? Wanna-
So my question is, when
Mike, please state your name and
Mike Riley,
thank you.
18 Federal Street. My question is, when you've done these generators,
Yes.
how come you aren't considering propane or natural gas, and I know natural isn't up here, propane is. Propane's actually gone down. Fuel is never gonna go down.
Yes.
Propane is more efficient from an engine standpoint. How come we haven't looked at changing or doing a comparable study on propane generators?
I can answer. Yes, we considered that. We did consider propane. We did not consider natural gas. The reason we went with the fuel oil ones was because it enables us more freedom to be able to fill them when things go out. If your power goes out and you run your generator, let's say it was for 3 or 4 days, and the supply goes out, and then the propane people have no more to give you, or we can't get out there, we thought that gives us freedom, because we can get fuel oil, you can put diesel in them, we don't like putting diesel in them, but that enables us to do it ourselves. If we see that, hey, there's a shortage of fuel, we have a portable 100-gallon tank we can take around and at least get 50 here, 50 there, 50 there. It gave us more flexibility. And we thought-
It does, but from a cost standpoint, comparable, I build treatment plants all the time. We don't use fuel.
Okay, but that's why, well, that is why.
Well, I guess I get that. I'm just saying, as the town moves forward, it really needs to think about that and isolating enough quantity so you're covered on that. Because fuel oil is not, that's in the past. I know it's something we still rely on, but I just got my next year's bill and it's gone down for propane, so.
Dennis,
but
you
I-
wanna address that?
The engineers that designed this were the ones that recommended that we go with fuel. We did discuss propane. The propane generators were more expensive themselves. And we do not have access to propane or natural gas on a prolonged power outage. And we do have access to fuel oil because the school has it and we have our own tank. So that was part of the consideration as to why we went this way. They're not running that much, that it's gonna be.
No, that's the whole issue.
You know, they're
They
just,
don't run that.
they just don't run that much. So,
Yeah.
you know, on the long run, it's not really a huge expense unless we have a month where, you know, the power's out for a month and things have to go. But
Yeah.
in the long run, it was very little difference in the price. And we did look at that.
Everything we build nowadays is all gas. We don't do fuel anymore on treatment plants or anything else, so it was just a question.
Anyone online? Question or comment from sewer rates? Feel free to wave or. Okay, seeing none online, any others who would like to speak to the sewer rate? Going once, going twice. Okay, open for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Hearing is closed at 6:23 PM. I'm assuming we need to take a vote.
I didn't put it on the agenda for tonight. I was gonna put it on the next one, to give you time to
That's fine.
consider the comments.
We don't have the camper trail on here.
Yeah, that's.
All right, so we will vote on that at the next meeting. Yes, 6:23. And motion.
It's up to you. If you want to vote on it, I can. But
What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was the one that brought it up with Rob a few minutes ago. I think we probably ought to consider lowering the fee for the camper dumps. And my concern is, if they don't, if they don't dump it here, then there's a possibility that they'll dump it off the side of the road somewhere. We don't want that. So it's an easy measure to fix and it's not very much. So I would propose, you want to form a motion?
Sure, you do that. We don't have that camper thing on the thing to vote on.
It was on the report. The director's
Okay,
report.
so let's wait till next time. Rob, can you
Okay.
guys revise with
Never mind.
the camper on there?
Yes.
Camper fee.
But I would like to
This
see
is my, report, sewer report, I thought.
I think it was,
Yes,
but it wasn't
but
on the.
not on
public
the,
ones.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, now we're at number 7, public comment. So same thing here, if there's something you'd like to comment on, please make sure it's not already on the agenda later. You'll have up to 5 minutes, I'll give you a 30-second warning, and you're welcome to come back around if you need to, but please keep in mind that time frame. So is there anyone who would like to speak?
Heather Jones, Wisconsin. I just wanted to say real briefly, sorry to squeeze into your very, very full agenda tonight. After the election, I went off to school, and when I came back, I found this letter that you guys had all written to the town, responding to some ugly behavior. And it's almost kind of old business now, but it's not old news. I just wanted to add a little footnote to that letter, because I had just gone all over town for the last couple of months, meeting a very large number of our town residents. And I just wanted to say, those little incidents that were described in that letter do not reflect my experience in this town. Everyone I met, almost down to the person, was wonderful, warmly accepting and gracious and friendly. I just wanted to say, if you live here in this castle, you've got great neighbors. So thank you all. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Sir? Yes, sir.
Yes, I got a question.
Sorry, what's your name, sir?
Malcolm Springer.
Thank you.
Why is town mowing state land,
Why is the town what?
mowing state property?
Where are you referring to?
Right over here, side of Route 1, I seen up there the other day mowing. You know, that cost the town a lot of money.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, right out here is.
No, over here on Route 1, over here on 27. And I seen them up here on 27, weed whack.
Ted? You know what he's referring to, because I don't know what he's talking about.
What is it, Malcolm?
Oh, yeah, on Route 1, I see town do that on one side of Route 1.
Only the side of Route 1?
Yeah,
It's town commons on Route 1.
yeah, but you ain't, don't they own that out there or don't they?
It's a state road, but we own.
That's right, they own, how wide, how far do they own, you
I
know?
own through they own, I can't answer that.
Well, they have a right of way to it.
No, they own 4 rods.
Right,
They have 2 rods on each side.
They're right.
33 feet, right?
I can tell you if the town doesn't mow that, the state's not going to.
Well, why we mow?
Because the state's not going to.
That costs us money, right? I don't.
I agree with you, and that's why I refuse to mow the sides of the bridge going in that I get complaints about quite frequently.
You know, the town is, we, out there where I live, there's been a ditch across the road for 2 months. You guys can't afford a ton of hot top. And you are wasting money. We make nice. You're down here, I bet you catch it when you got. I wouldn't, yes, you would. 2 people live on it, and being fixed immediately. Most towns, they get a culvert, they do everything, do the whole job. Am I right or wrong?
I'm not gonna get into it.
That's right, good enough.
If there's a concern or road, I don't know where you're talking about, but if there's a concern about a washout or a culvert or something like that, we need to know about it and,
Well, they've already fixed the culvert, they put the hot top now,
okay,
right?
Ted?
Yeah, well, Malcolm, this runs in the same thing as 218, it's a state road, and we maintain it for plowing, and we maintain it for mowing. So from the sidewalk to the road, it's the town's responsibility. It was agreement with the state years ago.
Well, I don't get it, but what about that culvert? I'm talking about that culvert, I think, hot top.
Because I've been working on the weather, and we're on it.
No, hot top trucks are running. Okay,
The bids
how
are-
much, I was up to, no, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. How much longer the town gonna pay for Worcester?
For what?
Worcester,
What do you mean?
used to be a copy.
Oh, yeah, Greg
No,
Worcester?
No, that's just a reference, remember?
Nothing has been done on that case for a number of years, but we're still gonna be responsible for it because he was a town
Well, that's
employee.
what they told me up there when they graduated from up there. The town told that graduated, they was not happy with it.
I'm not happy about it either. But there's
Why wouldn't he put in jail?
So that's a decision for the courts to make, not.
All right, how about payoff? Should it payoff, have anything to do with it, maybe?
I can assure you, there's no payoffs there.
Oh, yeah. One? I think it was. Then, recognize it.
Any other members of the public who'd like to speak during public comment? Okay, if not, we'll move on. Department head or committee chair, we have monthly reports from the departments. Any questions or comments from the board on those?
Good job. My comment, good job, all departments,
I'll second it. Yeah.
good job.
Especially proud of the community center. Their budget. And the work that's going on out there. Thank you.
All right, moving on to 9, unfinished business, Johnson Controls preliminary study results.
That's you.
I want to thank the selectmen, ladies and gentlemen of the select board to have us here today to talk.
If you can speak even louder, just because you're back to, or, yeah,
Pull the microphone down, Dean, so that, because it is turned on.
Sure,
and if you can introduce yourselves too.
I will, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having us here. My name is Dean Angelides. I'm from Johnson Controls. This is my colleague, Tim Fair. We have both been working with the town of Wisconsin. And want to thank Dennis and Ted and Earl for having us out to take a look at the town and what we could do to help this town save energy. And to do it in a fashion that provides upgrades to the entire infrastructure of the town without costing the taxpayers additional dollars. And we put together a small presentation, a short presentation. I'll be as quick as I possibly can with that because I know that the select people have a lot of business in front of them this afternoon or this evening. So I'll try to go through this relatively quickly. So we came out and we did basically a preliminary survey of Wisconsin, your buildings and where we could find energy savings. And when we provide what my company does is we provide a guaranteed energy savings program, where we guarantee the savings that we feel that we can generate, and then we use that guarantee to monetize and build a construction fund out of that. So it essentially becomes budget neutral, where the debt obligation is satisfied by the guaranteed energy savings, stipulated savings. There's no out-of-pocket costs for the town. If they were engaged in this project with Johnson Controls. We provide measurement and verification per the state statutes in Maine for the entire term of the project. So we would constantly prove that the energy savings that we would be generating are in fact happening. And in these types of programs, should that not occur, then Johnson Controls is quite literally cutting a check back to the town for the difference. So again, the debt obligation is always satisfied, and it goes out as a budget neutral type project. The positives of this, it's a very low risk proposition for the town. And because of the fact that you're mitigating your risk by having a company like Johnson Controls, which has numerous years experience in this particular field. In fact, Johnson Controls started these types of guaranteed energy savings programs over 30 years ago, and pioneered them with K through 12 and municipal entities like yourselves. To give you a perfect example, we're currently engaged in executing an energy savings project, a guaranteed energy savings project with the city of Lewiston right now. And Lewiston Public Schools is not far behind. And in my presentation, I borrowed an expression that my construction manager with 30 years experience said, with Johnson Controls, there's only one throat to choke, and that's ours. We are one point of contact for you, where if you were to do this type of project on your own, you'd have multiple vendors coming in, doing multiple types of disciplines to improve the energy efficiencies of the town. It would be a difficult thing to manage on your own, but Johnson Controls provides that service for you. And that's the value that we bring to a project like this. Not only will we find the energy savings and guarantee them, but we'll act as your quote unquote general contractor to make sure that the work is done efficiently, done on time, and done exactly as to prove the energy efficiencies that we would guarantee in writing. We are the single point of contact. I am the single point of contact for Dennis right now. If we were to get to a project and develop a project and get that before the town to vote on, my construction manager's name is Victor Holt. He's got over 30 years experience in the construction industry, all with Johnson Controls, and I can tell you they do not come any better than Vic. He's the gentleman that honors all the obligations that I make for Johnson Controls. My development engineer is a native to Maine. His name is Walter Sison, holds a master's electrician's license in Maine and a PE license as well. So it's local talent that we're utilizing to put this project together for you. The buildings that we looked at were all of the Wisconsin-owned buildings with the town offices, community center, public works, transfer station. We looked at the wastewater treatment plant, the airport, the high school, and the elementary school. It's about 189,000 square feet of buildings. I'll very quickly go through the utility analysis here. The baseline utility summary is that you're basically right now about 50-50 blend of electric cost and oil cost. And then it's broken down on the following page by the annual usage per building. So you can see the differences in electrical cost and annual costs and oil for the buildings. This is the savings summary page, and this is the page I think is probably the most important part. We feel that we can save over the next 20 years the town of Wisconsin approximately $120,000 a year in energy costs. Using utility savings and cost avoidance, and we would actually engage in a small solar project as well. We can actually build a very small solar array utilizing the high school and the land behind the community center. That would take just about 98% of the town's current electrical usage transferred to clean renewable energy at a lower cost. The town would own that array. They would have the benefit of the rate and the ownership. And I can tell you that as time increases, that array actually can be improved upon as the technologies increase for solar panels to become more efficient, greater efficiencies of sunlight to electricity. It becomes a very small capital project to replace those types of panels after, say, 20 years. So these are estimated savings only. We've only done a very preliminary assessment. For lack of a better expression, this is about a 40,000-foot view of what we can do for the town of Wisconsin. And then I included some helioscopes to show exactly what these arrays would look like. They would not take up a tremendous amount of space. And the areas where we were talking about putting them already have the interconnection capability with the utility. So there would be no additional cost in terms of that. The facility improvement measures, I've listed them kind of in a general slide here to show you all the things that we can do. I think there's a lot of things we can do right here at the town hall with an energy management system and something that's digital, something that Ted and Earl can respond to and use online to make changes and make sure that energy efficiencies are taking place. In fact, I'd like to have Tim just speak for a couple of moments on some of the work that Johnson Controls is actually doing today with this building.
Yeah, working with early on the project, at the town hall, working on the boilers, the valves, and the control system for the city. It's around T87 thermostats, so everybody is turning them up and down. There's no centralized control for this building as of yet, so working with them on upgrading the system and getting the controls in this building. We're also looking at boilers, working on multi-fuel burners. So you're looking at oil, gas, and future compatibility. So, you know, you can play whatever fuel is least expensive. We can use to heat your building.
Yeah, it's a pretty classic strategy in that you want to have multiple fuel abilities for your boilers so that you can play the energy game and always go with the least expensive fuel. But we take a look at all of these things. Weatherization, insulation are keys to these buildings because the buildings are aged. And if we could tighten the core and shell of the building, that's the basics of getting of energy efficiencies. We can put all of the measures in place, but if the building leaks heat every winter, it's just like throwing money right out the door. So we want to make sure that we improve the quality of these buildings. LED lighting wherever possible. The solar is an excellent addition to the portfolio for the city and taking the city's KW or electrical costs and transferring it entirely to renewable sources of energy. It's to me, this is a fairly straightforward project that I think we could develop in a fairly quick fashion for the city. And we'd like to, you know, kind of talk about, well, let me get to that in just a moment, but the options that we were talking about in terms of funding and financing, and currently we would use what we call a tax exempt lease purchase to move forward with this. And the TELP rates right now on the 15-year term run from about 3.85% to about 4.1. The 20-year term is about 4.5 to 4.85%. So we're still under 5% right now for interest rates. If this had been pre-COVID, we probably could have done this in 2. But unfortunately, things being what they are and the economy being what it is, interest rates are much higher. We also go after every single dollar in rebate and incentive monies possible to help bring down the cost of the project. Johnson Controls is a registered partner as an energy services company with Efficiency Maine. So we do work very closely with Efficiency Maine on all potential rebates for the project. I actually do sit on the Maine Climate Council for the governor's office. I've attended a number of those meetings and always looking to try to provide input, especially where we start talking about things like community energy production, community solar. It's something that I'm working on right now very closely for Lewiston. Lewiston being the second largest city in the state has some tremendous opportunities. We're just kind of sidelined right now or sidetracked by Central Maine Power is requiring an upgrade to the local substation. We also look at federally funded incentives, especially for the solar, the ITC, the municipal tax credits that are available for solar in 2024. It's a 30% base tax credit that's actually payable directly to the town in a one-time payment. So we would definitely take advantage of that as well to offset cost. The ground mount solar that we're looking at, the roof mount for the schools are the lowest cost solar options. So again, it's not a prohibitively expensive project. I think right now we're looking at somewhere between $2 and $2.5 million as far as the project goes. But the project would be fully funded and guaranteed by the energy savings. Johnson Controls would guarantee those savings. And I can tell you as a region, we are cutting the checks back to our customer less than 0.5% of the time. So we don't make pie in the sky promises. We make very valid assumptions. We take a lot of time to develop these projects because we want to make sure that when we do get to a point where we're coming back to present to the town and present to everybody here, we want to make sure that you know what's going on. In that respect, Tim and I have already pledged to Dennis that we would definitely come back, whenever the monthly meetings are here, we'd love to be here to answer questions about the projects. If we can get development agreement going, we'd love to give you progress reports about how we think the project will turn out and make sure that we answer all of your questions. The most important thing to Johnson Controls, to myself and to Tim, is to do a project that's fully funded and guaranteed for energy savings. The last thing I ever want to do is come into a town and say to you, well, maybe if you go get another $1 million bond, your taxes might go up kind of smidge. I don't want to talk about that. I would rather come in here and say we have an opportunity to build a project that is fully funded and guaranteed by Johnson Controls, which as of today is about a $6.5 billion global conglomerate. We're fairly well funded. So, you know, again, as far as that goes, I would say what I'm hoping for from the select board today is to look at next steps. I would love to move to develop a project development agreement that would outline the timelines of deliverables, probably a 3 or 4 month development period, where we'd like to be able to come back hopefully by no later than September, October, and present a potential contract and project deliverable to you. And at that point, then it could be voted on upon the town, or however, you know, your procurement rules are designed. But we want to make sure that before we do that, we've dotted every I and every T and crossed every T to find every energy savings measure that we can to monetize the best possible project, get those rebates and incentives going, and do as much as we can. Because the capital monies that you guys hold should be for you guys to spend on whatever you feel is important and necessary to do at the time. But we can come in here and we can do a fairly significant infrastructure improvement project and do it in a budget neutral fashion for the town of Wisconsin.
So in terms of the project agreement, you would come back to that and then we would agree as a board to move forward from there? Is that how that works?
Yes, that would be how it would work. Once you sign off on the agreement, we would start developing the project. And we would set down milestones and say, okay, by X date, we want to present a completed, you know, a project contract and what the project will look like in terms of dollar value and a cash flow for the term.
Okay. So at least personally, this sounds great, but I would want to see a lot more detail before we say, yeah, let's move forward. So, Bill.
Question for Dennis, with the school involved in this, how does that work?
They would have to be funding out of the school budget, I would think. As-
Jason may have.
I just want to point one thing out. People may have forgotten that when Jason Button on the school board chair, the school is already in an energy contract.
Yes, we know.
Corporation.
Yes.
So,
That was just for the lighting, though, correct?
well, there was lighting and some heating stuff. We need some more work done. We were talking about the building envelope, but I believe we're still in the middle of that contract with Siemens.
Yeah,
The solar idea I love, because we went in with we agreed to get a solar project going, but then they had overbooked. So we were kicked out of it after we agreed. So that was not on site. So we'd already started talking about solar, and Bob had already talked about that land behind the school, the rec center.
Yeah,
So
Jason,
I'm not against it.
this will not interfere with the existing project.
I just want to point it out.
Yeah, no, I-
You guys see all the buildings around here.
Yeah, no, I was
This is the
aware.
first I've heard of it. That you
Yeah,
guys were thinking about doing something to the school.
We had actually, we started working with, I believe it was Bob, was the previous school board chair,
No,
Superintendent.
she was an interim superintendent.
interim superintendent.
He was
That's who,
talking, he never told me that he talked to you guys directly.
and he actually did meet with.
Bob's gone, so.
John Mary's been included on this.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I just want to point it out when I saw the school buildings were there.
Yeah, we would not, I can tell you that we would not interfere with the Stevens project at all.
Well, that's not an interfering thing. I just
Yeah.
said I want to be sure that people remember, because it was actually a very arduous process
Oh,
to get that through before. It was a totally different board and a totally different time, but select board. And so we got it done, but I don't want to revisit any, I don't want to go back in time and have any more trouble. I want to see this on the board.
So, Bill, in terms of the school, we included all of the buildings in here. The school would have to agree to be part of this. It would likely be a single note that the school could then reimburse the town for out of their budget. But they would have to agree to be part of this.
Second part of the question is if we agreed to this and go to a town meeting in November?
Yes.
Karen?
Do we need a motion to ask them to prepare a project development agreement?
You need an actual.
So-
Pam, I know your question.
Being if I could, so for everybody's benefit, up to this point, this has been free, it hasn't cost the town a dime, which is why I kind of agreed to go along with it. I've looked at our energy costs for the last couple of budgets, and I've said, we've got to do better than this. A $400,000 a year energy bill is a lot of money. So to this point, it's been free. At what point are we going to start seeing a cost of this development?
There's really really one instance where you would see cost. If we put a project development agreement together, we're gonna write a budget to develop the project. If we get to the contract and the town and the select board decide not to move forward with the contract, we would deliver a detailed energy audit of all the buildings that we've done. And there would be a cost. There would be a cost to a breakup fee, basically. We generally keep that fairly low, considering the size of Wisconsin. I'll be going back to my energy engineers and asking them for a budget number to put in the development agreement, and that's negotiable. That would be negotiable. Now, if we get to a point where we've presented the contract, we presented the detail, and everyone's in agreement, and you decide to sign a contract to move forward, that cost just flows into the project, and we assume that cost.
So let me just clarify. So if we say tonight we want to go forward with the project development agreement, and then you come to us with that and we decide for whatever reason, no, we're gonna have a bill?
No, you would not, the only thing, if you sign a development agreement and we engage in the,
After that?
yeah, and we
Okay.
engage in the process, because I am gonna have to have time for my engineers to come out and do the work. I'm gonna have time for my construction manager, to work with tenant or to bring vendors around to price things up. So there is a cost to Johnson Controls, and so everyone in town understands, and I'll explain it the same way I explained it to Dennis. When we come out here, we actually, Johnson Controls, put some skin in the game first. We'll spend a few dollars to do the preliminary assessment. We keep that expense to around $5,000. So it's a cost that we constantly, we eat, basically. So that's no cost to the town at all, but I just want everybody to understand that Johnson Controls is willing to make a contribution. And always is, that's always the way we begin with all of our customers. Understanding that we'll definitely have some skin in the game first, and we'll stand next to you. And our goal is really to do this project and to be your partner moving forward. We partner with our customers. We want to be your long-term energy consultants. Not only do we come back and provide all the measurement and verification, I will tell you the same thing that I said in the presentation for the city of Lewiston. We don't leave, we stay. We stay and make sure that everything that we propose is done down the letter. We make sure that everything is fully executed, working the way it's supposed to work. If you have additional needs, we want to consult and make sure that we provide good information to you. So that as you go along over the next generation or so, that you're making the best possible decisions with the best possible information about the energy spent on your town.
Pam, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So, first is you have, well, the pages aren't numbered, but you have listed a heating system upgrade.
Mhm.
So are you looking at upgrading all facilities' heating systems? Is that what you're talking about? And my second part of that question is, you're looking at heating, is it just heating or is it also AC, climate control?
So
What
in
are
this,
you actually looking at?
yeah, in this building itself, we're looking at full-on climate control. Phase one will be getting the heat running, especially for this winter.
Yeah,
And then phase two will be getting air conditioner.
and that would be for this building and not all buildings, right?
Not all buildings.
So it's not practical.
No, it would only be for those buildings where it was a practical need to have the boilers replaced.
Okay.
We just didn't get into specifics because again, this is a preliminary assessment.
Yeah.
We can't give you guys all the secret sauce right out of the gate, so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some people tend to run with that information, so it's.
No, I'm not gonna run with it. I'm just getting clarified. because this is only my second meeting back on the board, and I wasn't here when you first approached the town, so I want to make sure I have everything correct. You, just really quickly, you mentioned, average $120,000 a year possible savings. Did you extrapolate out through those years with, future rate increases through electric, or are you going by what you think we?
And we do when we get into development of the project, we build an escalation over time,
Okay,
so we will do that. Right now, just again, from a 40,000-foot view, and
okay,
that 120,000 is an estimated number, so I just want to make sure you
you're
understand.
just spitballing.
Well, I would say it's a little bit more than spitballing, it's an engineered guess.
Okay,
It's a fairly well-engineered guess. What we did, so you understand the process, is we started by taking a look at all of the utility bills for the town, oil, gas, well, no gas, oil and electric. So we looked at all of the bills for all of the buildings, we did an analysis of that. And then I came out here with my development engineer, actually Vic Holt, my construction manager, and Tim, and we walked the buildings. We walked every single building with Ted and Earl. And we started putting together our assumptions and our best estimate of what we think we could save, on an annual basis again. So that's a fairly rough number. Once we get into a development agreement, we're gonna have a number we'll commit to.
Okay.
And measure and verify. That's the critical thing. But we do see a tremendous opportunity here, specifically with this building and the community center.
Sure.
The community center has a huge opportunity for energy savings.
I only have one other question that also is money. Because you said that once you start developing the plan, if we didn't go forward with it, there would be a cost. So just to have it in my head, are you talking about a $5,000, $10,000, $30,000, $50,000, what kind of cost is that? If we didn't go, you start building the plan and we say, oh gee, it's not really a good fit for us after all, and we would get a bill for your development work.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you kind of a range. I could say it could be as low as 50,000 or it could be as high as 100,000.
Okay.
It would really be based on the amount of time my engineers feel it's gonna need to complete. But I think that's a fairly safe spot to say.
Okay. All right, just so I had a neighborhood to park my car in, that's.
Yeah, and understand that if you didn't go forward at that point, we would deliver a detailed audit of all the buildings.
Sure.
So that you would have, it wouldn't be something that would be just printing a check out for, there would be a deliverable for that one.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Oh, my
Appreciate it.
pleasure.
Do we want to move forward with the development agreement and then make a decision after that?
I would think so.
Do you need a vote?
I would like an authorization on that, please.
I move to authorize the town manager to work with Johnson Controls on a plan with the
Project development agreement.
project agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Related subject, are all the LED lights in?
Yeah.
They're on my street, I tell you.
Oh, the streetlights, yes,
Streetlights, yeah.
the streetlights are done, yes.
Yeah, we wouldn't be tackling the street lights.
Got nothing to do with
You guys
you.
already got them.
It saves us $30,000 a year.
Supposedly.
Supposedly, but I'll tell you, on my street, it's an elongated light, it's only lighting the street, which is good. Used to come down the yard, like, between the two houses, I mean, look out back, I could see light. I like it. Good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Jason, I'm going to say, I'll let you guys this. So,
Okay, moving on to new business, 10A bid opening paving bid.
So we only received one bid this year, despite asking several companies to bid. The weather is not helping this year. So a couple have come forward and said, we just won't be able to do it. And so this bid is for P&B paving. We have used P&B paving before, and for all of the town roads that Ted listed, the total is $421,750, which is, we budgeted $465 for, so it's.
I'll move to authorize the town manager to, award the bid to the lowest qualified.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. 10B, bid opening front end loader.
So this is a Northland JCB. Out of Middleborough, Mass, is that right, Ted?
Thanks for the, yeah.
For the specs, they bid $145,000, so that's $180,000 total, $35,000 for trade, so $145,000 would be our outlay.
Well, they got a camera.
They never do.
They get excited about the little things. This bid is from Caterpillar. Who's the Milton in Scarborough. Their bid is $165,000, $30,000 trading value, so that would be $135,000 out of pocket. And we have 160 that we're supposed to do for this.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's true.
I move to authorize the town manager and public works director to review the bids and award to the lowest qualified bidder.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, 10C, business license for Down Yonder LLC at 100 Main Street. Open for motion.
I move to approve the business license for Down Yonder LLC at 100 Main Street.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion?
This is Mammy's.
I was gonna ask that. Is that what the address for me?
I believe so, yes. Yeah, it's gonna be a sub shop, I think.
Sandwich and salad shop.
Sandwich.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. 10D business license for Hand E-Man side work and more, 285 Birch Point Road.
Move to approve business license for Hand E-Man side work and more, 285 Birch Point Road.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. 10E, business license for Angelo Santo, 64 Main Street.
Move to approve business license for Angelo Santo, 64 Main Street.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion?
This is the Austin Post building.
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Yes. And what are they going to do?
There's some ceramics and some art books, children's books. Very nice.
Excuse me, I was just interested in it.
So
new.
Yeah, it says gallery and art studio.
Thank you so much, Lucia.
All right, calling.
Already did.
Yep. There are no other questions. Calling for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. All right, now we're at business license for Amistad Inc., 12 Hodge Street. I'm not gonna ask for a motion yet, because I know there's a lot of people who want to speak, so I think it would make more sense just to do that first. We're gonna run it the same way we did public comment. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes. Again, if we'll go through everybody who would like to speak, and if you want to say something else, we'll go back to you, but please respect the other people in the room so that they have a chance to speak as well. I'll hold up a 30-second left thing just for your reference. Again, I ask that you come up here, state your name, speak louder than you think you should, and try to face both so that we can hear and see you. Would ask that you Please try not to repeat everything that has been said before. If you agree with those points, that's perfectly fine to say so. But just because I know there's a lot of people who want to speak, and I want to make sure all the points that people would like to make it out there. So as much as you cannot repeat, that would be very appreciated. Arguing back and forth with people from Amistad or others in the audience will not be permitted in any way, shape, or form. Come ask your question. We will direct it to the appropriate person and get it answered. And then you can come up again if you'd like to, but we want to keep this as respectful and also helpful as we can. So first, I'm just going to start with any board questions. We will then go to any public questions, including anyone online. I won't forget you if you're online. We will then, we'll go through everybody who wants to speak. We will then close that portion and we'll come back to the board for any final questions and vote. Yes.
Yeah, I would just ask that the chair clarify exactly what this business license
Yes.
covers, please.
Thank you. So just to be clear, because there has been some confusion, this is the business license for the Harbor Pier and Wellness Center. This is not for any housing units. That is a whole separate project that, to my knowledge, the planning board has not received any materials for yet. And also, just to clarify, this went directly to the planner because any projects of 2,500 square feet or less default to the planner unless the planning board or the planner decides to kick it back to the planning board. So that is why I did not have a separate hearing with the planning board. I don't know what the housing application will be. I would assume it would be bigger than 2,400 square feet, and therefore it would go through the full planning board process as well with a hearing there. So I just want to clarify all that and make sure we're all talking about the same thing. So nothing tonight has to do with the housing project that has been mentioned in the news and other things. So I think that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, questions from the board?
Who's here from Amistad?
Who is here from Amistad? Is the question.
Brian Townsend.
Okay. Okay. Brian Townsend. Other initial questions from the board, or we'll start with public?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Go for it. Brian, can you come in?
I can. Here, okay.
This project is a drop-in project for counseling and meetings.
State your name.
Hi, Brian Townsend, I'm the executive director at Amistad, also known as Common Space.
And speak up, please.
Yeah.
And can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
What you're planning to do here is to host meetings and counseling.
Hosting meetings, yes, we don't do any counseling. We're
I thought there were going to be 2 people in the office who are as counselors.
just being very specific about the language. We don't have any licensed counselors. It's not a licensed facility anyway. It's a peer-to-peer type program. So the folks we employ are credentialed as recovery coaches and intentional peer support specialists. And they do provide one-on-one support. That I have to say looks a lot like counseling a lot of times, but also is a lot of sort of life skills. And
Legally
just
not
support.
counseling.
Legally not counseling, right, correct.
And is that it?
The other options that having a space provide us are to do occasional community gatherings that aren't meetings, because our normal gatherings that go beyond the one-on-one are support groups, which most people are familiar with, like AA, NA, Smart Recovery, things in that department. But these are also community, the centers that exist through the state are designed to bring communities together. So we do try to provide meals that are open to everyone. And just occasions, like social occasions, so not unlike other things that St. Philip's might run. So beyond that, there's really nothing else that we would offer at the center.
You do needle exchanges?
No.
Can you put that in writing for us?
Yes.
That might happen.
We don't do that work. We're also not allowed to do that work. We operate on a contract with the state of Maine Department of Health and Human Services that is extremely explicit about what we do and don't do in this program.
So how do you measure yourself successful?
So we, like all the other centers in the state, enter data into a platform that's called Recovery Link. And so anyone who's engaging with us, we enroll them in the system. And so we're identifying super simple things like attendance in meetings and participation if they're doing one-on-one with the recovery coaches. But we also track a number of things that they're working on. They kind of establish their own sort of plan. A lot of times it's about vocational support, like accessing employment or just getting support with finding employment. Sometimes folks are looking to move into housing, to access treatment or healthcare. So we're tracking all those variables. And the state is looking at that, of course, to see the efficacy of these programs statewide.
Tracking recovery,
And recovery, yeah.
and how are you doing?
That's always tricky, but we have the integrity in the process is every center in the state uses the same recovery inventory model, which is kind of a combination of subjective and objective data. So it's a lot of interview with the person to really draw out like what they're working on, what progress they've made. Most of our folks, I have to say, are already in recovery. It's why they're accessing us or looking to stay in recovery. So the recovery inventory, the capital of recovery is not just about not using, which isn't negative, but it's a lot of positives about like what are they fulfilling in their lives after the removal of substances. Now that they're living a sober life, how are they manifesting that? Like what is their recovery? Recovery actually starts to look a lot like just a fulfilled life. So a lot of that is like it gets captured in the data too, like what are their successes?
Did they move on to another program after yours?
It's wide open. They can be in our program and others because there's no cost. This isn't like Medicaid or anything like that. There's no cost to anyone. There's no billing. We do sometimes because the nature of recovery is there's often some relapse. So if people, go into a recovery center, like to move out of that, sometimes you lose track of them for a little while. Sometimes you find out where they've been, sometimes not. But we don't own them like as a client. They use us to the extent that they need us.
I worked with NAMI out in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
They had a good program that gave them from one group to another group as they progressed. They could show us numbers.
Yeah, this is a state contract. They invest quite a lot in this, so they're very, very interested to know about the return on their investment for all the centers. The centers also get together very frequently. It's a strong cohort, and so we're kind of working on best practices together all the time. And this is like top to bottom of the whole state. There's 18 programs now like ours.
There are a lot of angry people out here in the audience. How can you assure them that they're not going to have people lying on their lawns?
Yeah, can you speak up?
I'm sorry. I'm chewing some gum because I've got an allergy and it stops you from coughing. You got a lot of angry people out here in the audience, and how can you assure them they're not going to get up in the morning and find people sleeping on their lawn, on their porch, or something like that?
So we don't provide, like if someone walks into the center and they're under the influence, they're not allowed to be there during that time. And very key to that, we support them getting somewhere else, always. It's also something that very rarely happens. So we run a center in Bath as well. And we've had, since 2017, we've had 0 incidents of that nature. And it's also not an issue that comes up in that cohort of state-run centers. Like these are very like pro-social, community-focused spaces. And it's like everything else. Like if someone is really struggling or they're actively under the influence, ours is not the place they're going to walk into because they know it's not going to end well. So like people don't go places where they don't think they're going to be not welcome, but just allowed to stay. There's no reason, there's no practical reason for people to do that. Most importantly, St. Philip's and Amistad won't allow that to happen. and just give that assurance on top of all that.
I feel a little better since you're not doing needle exchange.
We can't,
That brings
Well,
in people that aren't there to react.
yeah, that's not our lane at all.
So you said there's a number of things that you are allowed to do and a number of things that you are not allowed to do. Do you have any kind of a bullet point list of the differences between the two? Because I'd really be interested in seeing that list.
Yeah, it's kind of short. There are things that we're mandated to do,
Okay.
which are the obvious ones I've already said, which are run groups and provide one-on-one support. We also are required to be engaging with other community partners so that we serve as a useful link for folks to other resources. So we kind of, we're helpful. Even if we don't provide the service ourselves, we can make that connection. And those connections are one of the things that we track, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. We cannot do, as I said, any kind of syringe exchange, or that's kind of in the bucket of harm reduction, like harm reduction work. We cannot provide open-ended sort of drop-in space. Everything has to be really focused around programming. So if someone is there, they're either there for that one-on-one support, or they're there for a group, or they're there volunteering, or they're one of our tiny staff.
Okay. And this pretty much covers the broadest scope of everything you do?
It does. There used to be a restriction against doing outreach, like doing anything outside of the center. Everything had to be inside the four walls of wherever we were. They changed that with COVID and decided not to bring that back because it was an effective way. Our mandate is actually to serve Lincoln County, which I don't know if that story needs to be told, but that's a big reason why we are looking to be in Wiscasset versus where we were. And the outreach actually had allowed us to reach more of the county, because transportation is so often an issue for folks.
Okay, so the outreach is more giving rides to people who aren't here so they could get in for meetings, or is that what you're calling outreach?
No, that could happen, but what I mean by outreach is something that would never even be visible or touch the center. So we might, it's a lot like if a food bank is aware that someone can't get out for food, that they'll bring it to them.
Oh, they deliver. Yeah.
Right, so we're delivering like the coaching, right? So if we know someone who's, homebound in Waldeboro, we might have a person, most commonly, by the way, we're doing that telehealth, but because we don't have that big of a staff, we can't do that much, but like we do have a few of those situations where once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever, we have someone who goes out and meets with someone because they can't get to us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board at this point? And I will mention that Terry has let me know that she will be recusing herself from the vote on this business license because of her involvement with St. Phillips. So I just wanted to state that. All right, so we'll go ahead with the public. If you could just come up, I'm sure you're
I'll
going
wait in
to
the
need to
wings.
answer.
Yeah, right.
Good evening, my name is Tanya Hammond. Can't hear you, closer.
Yeah, feel free to just go right up to the mic. That's fine. Thank you.
Pull it right over to the edge of the table, yeah. There you go.
Good evening, my name is Tanya Hammond. I grew up on Hodge Street and live there now with my children. Perhaps you recognize me. I've attended some meetings, both select board and planning board, asking questions about Amistad's plans in our village. At that time, no specific answers could be given because no application had been filed. Now an application has been filed, and Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission's Emily Robbie has reviewed and approved the site plan application for Harbor Care and Wellness Center to run their programs at St. Philip's Church. St. Philip's runs many programs that benefit our community. The Bargain Basement, Feed Our Scholars, and the Help Yourself Shelf Food Pantry. And they host events like the Strawberry Festival of which I have fond childhood memories. I've liked being their neighbor. But their recent partnerships with Amistad, an emergency warming shelter, this current proposal for substance abuse services, and their plans for single-use occupancy housing in the future have me worried, very worried. As does the fact that at previous meetings, it's been made very clear that Amistad has not been honest with us. I call that lying. St. Philip's desires to help those in need and for financial assistance to maintain their facilities are now coming at our community's expense. They are inviting all the problems, safety risks, and financial liabilities associated with homelessness and substance abuse into our village. In Amistad's application, the details of services and the qualifications of those providing them are vague. At the very least, the select board needs to place restrictions on any license that is approved to make clear what is and what is not included in the approval. It should also be clear how enforcement of those restrictions will be managed. I ask you, the select board, to delay your vote. I ask you to notify not only abutters like myself, but the larger community as well, since every taxpayer, family, and business owner would likely be impacted by St. Philip's and Amistad's plans. I ask you to schedule another meeting with ample space and time for your constituents to express their views and concerns, to get explanations and clarifications, something they have not been given an opportunity to do until tonight. Our townspeople should be granted more notice and participation in a decision that could have both long-lasting and devastating effects on the community we call home. I thank you for your serious consideration of this request for continuance. Thank you.
My name is Richard Forrest. Back about 1973, we formed a volunteer ambulance service. I qualified as an EMT and a crew chief. We had a call, a problem with a baby. When we got in the house, we realized that both the man and the woman were on drugs. The man said, if you touch the baby, I'll come at you. I said, you stay there and don't move. Because I was much bigger than he stayed there. I examined the baby, got vitals, the baby was fine. Told the woman your baby was fine. She went ballistic and said, you people don't know what you're doing. The baby's feet are black. The woman on my crew said, I've checked the feet, it's dirt. I said, woman, your baby's got dirty feet. She went ballistic and kicked us out of the house. That was one call. We had multiple calls. We could not deal with these people. There was logic that could not be applied. It was frightening. If someone comes on my property, I have a house in the neighborhood. No violence, no damage. Maybe they just look in the window. What's that going to do with the people inside? It's going to put fear into them. If that should happen to you, if someone comes on your property, falls asleep on your steps, what are you going to do? What does that impact the people in your house? I have an obligation and responsibility to provide a safe house for my tenants. They should be able to feel safe in that house. I feel that the select board has a responsibility to make sure that the people in the village have a safe house and feel safe in their houses. I urge you to do the right thing.
My name is Samantha Gall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and to all of you here in attendance. My name is Sam, and I live near St. Philip's Church. I'm speaking tonight as I am diametrically opposed to the proposal by St. Philip's in Amistad for a drug rehab/outreach center. If the board approves this proposal, my property values will most certainly be affected in a catastrophic manner. Do not take my word for it. I have shared copies of page 1 and the conclusion of the 30-page article titled "Not in My Backyard: The Effect of Substance Abuse Treatment Centers on Property Values," authored by several people. You may source the entire article online. In this report, the resulting devaluation of property values can be as high as 17%. When you combine that number with another report on the negative effect of SROs on property values as high as 18%, the math does not lie. Throw in the winter warming shelter and the damage will be as high as 50% loss of property value to those of us in the village within proximity to St. Philip's. Flashback 20 years ago, when I bought a brick colonial house on a golf course in Charleston, South Carolina to improve and resell. Like my home here in the village, this property sat within a desirable historic area called Tea Farm Plantation, named so as this plantation provided the very first tea to the White House long ago. After closing on the property, I learned of a proposal to extend a 4-lane parkway within 300 feet of my front door. With real estate law and moral ethics requiring that I disclose this proposal to potential buyers, I suffered a catastrophic monetary loss. The property, appraised at just over $1 million, was short sold for $450,000. Now flash forward 20 years, and here I am again, fighting for my property rights, for the quiet, safe, and peaceful enjoyment of my home. I bought my house at 228 Main Street because I've always admired Wiscasset. I take pride that I own a home in a nationally significant village recognized for its architecture. So significant, the village is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. That is an honor for all of us who live here. My property taxes are just over $6,000 a year, which is a whopping sum. I have been willing to pay that amount as I highly value my home and the idyllic historic village it sits in. However, should the board approve this drug rehab outreach center at St. Philip's, I will no longer be willing to pay that amount in taxes. These combined ventures at St. Philip's will absolutely, unequivocally ruin my property value by half. Upon board approval, I will immediately request a reduction in my taxes of 50% as compensation proportionate for the damage caused by this or these ventures. I encourage all property owners in the village to do the same to mitigate the financial damage you too will certainly suffer. In closing, I think everyone here tonight would like to help those less fortunate, but charity begins at home, my home. I cannot help those in need if I suffer a catastrophic monetary loss. Please do not approve this proposal, as this venture will negatively and seriously impact the very fabric of our nationally significant historic village and homes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
My name is Lisa, and I live at Liliana
Sorry,
Cottage.
do you mind going?
Do this?
Or just stand over there, just so you're not back too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I was not sure tonight if I should talk about this, but I think I will. I'm from Seattle, not from Maine. I spent many years in Seattle. I then moved to San Francisco and spent a good part of my career in San Francisco. Most recently, my daughter was in Portland, Oregon, and I was out there in the last 3 years visiting her several times. That is not to, also to include that I'm in Portland, Maine at least once a week. And every week that I'm in Portland, Maine, I see the line of homeless people increasing. I've seen.
So sorry to interrupt. Can you get closer to the mic?
Yeah, is that good?
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
what I'm talking about is that we have an incredible problem in this country. We all recognize it. It's horrific. It's sad. It needs to be addressed. But I have seen these beautiful cities be systematically destroyed because the cities were hit out of nowhere. It happened so fast. There was no infrastructure. There were no support services. They had not the financial wherewithal to enact anything to help these people. And now we find ourselves in a similar situation in the village of Wiscasset. My concern tonight is that if we approve this without understanding fully that we have programs set up, established with reputable people, reliable services, including our EMTs, our medical services, our hospitals, if we do not have these things set up, we are on a path that I've seen happen in other cities and other towns. And once we go there, it's very difficult to put that genie back in the bottle. So I would like to implore you all tonight to think this through seriously. You have a sign at that end of Route 1 that says, that welcomes everyone heading north to the prettiest little village in Maine. You have a sign for anyone heading south on that end that you're a business-friendly community. You need to think about your brand. You need to think about your legacy. You need to think about your heritage. You need to think about what is it that you want to build here and what do we want as people that live in Wiscasset, people that visit Wiscasset, newcomers to Wiscasset, our children. What do we want to create for them? We have to make sure that we have answers, and we need to know that those answers are solid, and we need guarantees. We do not need to be afraid, but we need guarantees. And I implore you to think about that, and I really would like to have you consider a continuance. Thank you.
Real quickly, is there anyone online? We'll come back to in the room.
Can I go?
Okay, for any online, we'll come back to you if you're just not at your.
Good evening, my name is Ann Dill. I moved to this town about 25 years ago. But about 50 years ago, I was a case manager in charge of the institutionalized mentally retarded and mentally handicapped who lived in institutions in 5 states in the eastern part of the United States. My caseload was 365 people. I was on the cutting edge of the word normalization as the deinstitutionalization of the mentally retarded took place on a national level. I remember town meetings like this. The fears that have been expressed were as real then as they are today. 50 years later, however, we have the group homes, we have the support services, we have the social and the professional infrastructure in place throughout this country. And people who would otherwise have been institutionalized for the whole of their lives are now living well-supported, thriving, vibrant lives, well incorporated into the communities that at first feared their existence. Treating the issues of mental health disabilities and the coexisting disorders of substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or illegal drugs, is to my mind no different than what we faced half a century ago when we took high functioning people who should never have been put in an institution in the first place and taught ourselves and taught them how to live together and how to succeed. We may need to have clarity of language in order to have a satisfactory business license granted to Common Space. I believe that the service that they propose to provide to Lincoln County, the state of Maine, and this town will make the fact that it is the prettiest town in the state of Maine a reality on a scale the likes of which no one has considered. Our disenfranchised population exists. This is an opportunity to provide a structured, monitored service to heal the wounds. And I urge you to think about that as well.
Jenna, and then for anyone online, we'll come back to you when Jenna is finished.
Hi, Jenna Wolfinger, licensed social worker in the state of Maine, and also maybe the most unpopular person on Hunt Street right now. So on the Recovery Center, I would like to start off by establishing that Wiscasset is not immune to the opioid crisis or substance use disorder. As a professional working directly in the field with lived experience, I can state that not only is the crisis already here, as somebody previously stated, they witnessed substance misuse in town back in the 70s, but because of our aging population, we would be wise to recognize that within the next 10 years, our little town's demographics will be changing dramatically. And being prepared for that and learning what other towns' mistakes have already been made is always the wisest decision. To my knowledge, this program already exists in other communities in Midcoast with no negative impacts to the community that there's evidence of. Let us discuss research. The Recovery Research Institute cites multiple studies that found peer recovery support for individuals with substance use disorder, improved relationships with providers and social supports, reduced rates of relapse, and increased satisfaction with overall treatment and increased treatment retention. The much respected National Institute of Health cites research stating that peer support groups included in addiction treatment shows much promise. And for those who may be skeptical due to the need for more research within the substance use disorder realm, we can look optimistically to research that has been conducted for a long time regarding mental health. Peer support in the behavioral health field has been utilized for decades. According to Mental Health America, research shows that peer support specialists have a transformative effect on both individuals and systems. Peer support has been shown to improve quality of life, improve engagement and satisfaction with services and supports, decrease hospitalizations and inpatient days, and reduce overall cost to services. Peer support empowers people to make decisions for them and to strive towards their goals in communities and become productive members of society. Peers are an essential component of recovery-focused systems and are key across settings and stages of recovery. As a social worker that has dedicated my life's work to children and families struggling with substance misuse, not just across the state of Maine, but specifically in Midcoast, I can say that this recovery center is much needed in Wiscasset. The clinical treatment, such as medicated assisted treatment and therapy, already exist here and are incredibly helpful to many clients. But a recovery community and resource center is, in my experience, what people in recovery fall back on when they're struggling with their treatment. This is one piece of the recovery pie that can't be overlooked. We are being handed a golden opportunity to boost positive outcomes before substance misuse becomes something that community members no longer have the luxury to ignore. Not only do people in community already struggle with substance misuse, but if we ignore implementing resources now, we risk not being prepared to serve our community members in the future. It is beneficial to act proactively, not reactively. The towns and cities close to us that we know are struggling with this crisis made the same mistake and have come to regret it. I personally believe in equity and ethical decision-making. I believe in compassion. I believe in well-rounded treatment of mental health and substance misuse disorders here in the village. And I believe in being proactive, not reactive. I believe in people in recovery. And I am hopeful that folks in this town who have apprehensions and fears, while they're natural, will reflect and do the same.
Back to online, is there anyone who would like to speak? If so, please unmute yourself and state your name for the record, please.
Hi there, this is Dan Whitney. We're down on 3 Hooper Street. My questions revolve around criminality. What level of criminality excludes someone from participation in the program? What level of criminality, or I guess, what's the plan for ongoing vetting of criminality, if there is such? And then also, what happens, what's the plan if someone violates that threshold? And will they be able to turn someone away once they've been engaged in the program? That's my statement. Thank you.
There's no real difference in terms of any other sort of open to the public space in terms of backgrounds. An exception would be if we were made aware in some manner, or like if it was a person known to the police or something like that, and they gave us a heads up that there was a reason to exercise caution or to forbid entry. I suppose we'd go in that direction. We've never had that happen in our other spaces. And the what has, and this is very rare, but if a person is asked to leave, it's usually because they're disruptive in the group or disrespectful in the group or something to that effect. And part of the peer support culture is that a lot of that, staff are there to support that, but we really work on developing a community of people who are accessing our resource, who value that themselves and honor that themselves and do a lot of sort of self-regulation.
Anyone else online before we go back to those in the room? Okay, anyone else in person who'd like to speak?
My name is Karen Sullivan. I'm a Wiscasset resident and the butter of St. Philip's. The Amistad Pier and Wellness Center, previously identified as Amistad's Licking County Recovery Center, has been mentioned as part of a larger grant linked to a 1215 unit single resident occupancy proposal, also to be housed at St. Philip's. We would like assurance from the select board that despite Amistad, now rebranded as Common Space, linking the Drug Recovery Center and the housing proposal in their grant application to the Maine Housing Authority, our elected officials, you, will not consider these proposals as linked and will scrutinize each proposal as is on its own merits and faults. I also would like to request a continuance so that you can hear in depth more history of the neighbors' attempts to converse with St. Philip's and with Amistad and the frustration that we have experienced. Brian Townsend sat here on the microphone and said he asked for the assurance that you would get from both St. Philip's and Amistad. You have our words that we will take care of this, we will supervise this. He also said twice in the press that a robust engagement with the community is part of their process. The community has been after Amistad and St. Philip's since the announcement of the warming center in February to sit down with engage with us. There have been 2 meetings held, which we expressed concerns, questions, and issues, and we got no answers. There's been 5 people that have volunteered to work with St. Philip's and Amistad to work through some of our concerns, to find out more about their plans and their proposals so that perhaps they could respond to our concerns. They have not taken us up on that at all. We get from them crickets. So when he says you can rest assured you have our words, I would like it in writing. I want to know what Amistad is going to do there and what they will not be able to do. When he says that they are not permitted to do needle exchange, I want that in writing for this site, because in fact, they do needle exchange and syringe, safety syringe, whatever in Portland. So Amistad does have capabilities from the state of Maine that perhaps they're not going to utilize here or implement here, but I want that in writing. Because our engagement with Amistad and to a lesser extent with St. Philip's have not been open, have not been transparent, have not been honest. And I just want to put that on record. So when they ask you to be assured because they are telling you this, I want it in writing. Their assurance means nothing to me because their words have been belied by their behaviors. Their efforts to convince the newspapers that they engage in public comment have not bear fruit in the neighborhood. And I don't trust them, to be perfectly honest. I don't trust them, and I am concerned about this community, not because the population they want to treat. It is a difficult and devastating problem, addiction and homelessness. So it's not the population, it's the people that are managing it or mismanaging it that concern me. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a sec, you got it before you. Tom and then Anna.
Great.
Yep, get close.
Good evening, I'm Tom Zucker, and I have the privilege of leading the priest in charge at St. Philip's. And want to say a couple of things. One is the vestry met with Brian and Meredith twice to talk about this recovery center. And at each time, the vestry voted to move ahead with this, even in the midst of some of the things that we weren't able to understand, and there were complications and some roadblocks. And the second time we met with Brian back in May, I just felt that the vestry was really that much more dedicated to seeing this program through. Because we already are doing this at St. Philip's. We have had AA meet at St. Philip's for 40 years. Is it that long, John? Pretty close. You've been here 40 years, I have. But we are already doing the work of recovery. And as another priest who was preaching at St. Philip's one Sunday, as we met together, he said, you know, we're all in recovery. We're all in recovery. So I don't know as if we want to get into fearing those people who are in recovery, because again, we are with them. And we haven't had any issues at St. Philip's with AA. Come on Tuesday night, in fact, they're meeting tonight, and there are sometimes 30, 40, 50 people who are there, and they will tell you the kind of impact that recovery experience has been for them. And they credit it because they're able to meet at St. Philip's. This has been a safe place, a haven, a refuge, a sanctuary. And I see that happening also with this recovery center as well. I think in terms of Karen, you mentioned about the connection with the community, and I think we have brought that up at Vestry, and we do want to do an advisory committee with Amistad, with Common Space, with St. Philip's, and with the community. We want to be engaging in that, and if we have, you know, fallen down on that, we're sorry. But we do want to be engaged in that. But this tonight is not about homelessness. This is about how we are able to be of support to those people who are in recovery. That's the issue tonight. It's not the SROs. It's that recovery center that we wish to continue at the church. That's what we're here to talk about. And I would urge the select board not to hold off on this, not to put it on the table, but to vote on it tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ann Rydell. I live on Hodge Street. So we know substance misuse is happening in our community. It is happening in the village, whether you see it or not. We know resources are needed. I actually am from Seattle too, and I agree with Lisa that we need to get ahead of it. So since it's here, the programming is for people who are already in recovery. So these are people who have taken the steps to be on their feet. From a human standpoint, it's better for their families and their communities for them to be successful. I know there's been a lot of talk about the potential economic impacts and what that might mean for people's property taxes. From an economic standpoint, it's better to have this programming as well. It's better for people to be successful in recovery and have connections to workforce support to contribute to their communities and society. There's needs for more workers in the area, so let's get people to work. Let's have them be there for their families. Speaking of economic costs, when people have jobs and they are in recovery, they're more likely to purchase homes. They're more likely to add to the tax base. They're less likely to have costs from EMS and other things that are associated for people who are struggling. In a cost benefit analysis, there is low risk with the outlined programming and very clear economic and human benefits.
Others who'd like to speak?
Yes, I'm Darren Vitro, I'm a resident here in Wiscasset. My wife and I have been here on Pebble Street for the last 2 years. I had a number of concerns that I wanted to bring up, which I don't want to be redundant. So I'll try to just piecemeal it together, so bear with me. My initial concerns were, because I'm a healthcare provider, I've been a physician assistant for 22 years. I've practiced in a multitude of different specialties through those years. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot related to drug abuse. I've seen a lot of trauma related to drug abuse, and I've seen the impact it has on the community and the impact it has on us as providers. And that's one of my primary concerns here today. When Ryan mentioned that we don't really have access to certified registered nurses or therapists or anything, it's peer-to-peer coaching, that raises a red flag for me, because I'm wondering, what is the credential here that allows this act to proceed with success? I want to know that there are professionals that are used to dealing with people who have substance abuse issues, working with these people, if this is going to have to happen in our town. The other thing that is a real big concern for me is from a pragmatic medical public health standpoint. One of the things that you'll notice is that we have the 2 clinics here in town, but we don't have any urgent care. We do not have any emergency room here. The closest that we have is in Damascus, Booth Bay, and then the emergency room is in Damascus. So we're going to depend for this influx of people who are here. Maybe some of them are sober, maybe some of them are actively using, which Brian admitted, if they're actively high, they can't be in their space, but they can be in our space as this town. I see that as a problem, and I'm not comfortable with that. So what's going to happen whenever we see this increase of drug-related medical issues? We're going to have to depend on our EMS. We're going to have to depend on our fire department. We're going to have to depend on our police department. So our first responders, who normally go about their day dealing with home accidents, heart attacks, car accidents, they're going to be taxed, and their services are going to be diluted because they're now going to be dealing with these extra things that we have to contend with due to these folks coming in here for maybe help, maybe not. So what's going to happen here? Well, we're going to have potential issues with primary problems with drug overdose, primary problems with injuries related to drug use. I will tell you from personal experience, about 10 years ago, I was working orthopedics on the West Coast, and we got a call that there was a patient who was overdosed on heroin. She was a college kid. She just started using heroin. She passed out on the train tracks. Guess what? Train came. Still to this day, I have fake photos on my phone of that patient as a reminder. Let me just tell you, it was ugly. That's the kind of thing you're potentially looking at here, okay? Because not everyone's going to come in that's going to be sober. So I'm concerned about the fact that we're going to have overdose potential. We're going to have accidents related to drug use. The next thing that is concerning to me is secondary issues related to drug use in our town. So when you have secondary issues, what I'm referring to here is primarily criminality related to drug abuse. Drug users and drug abusers are desperate. So are we going to have an increase in assault? Or is our first responders going to be now having to, coach people because they've been mugged? What about drug deals? Drug trade and people who are dealing in this sorts of nefarious behavior, not that everyone that's seeking recovery is, but let's face it, drug dealers are looking for weak people. They're looking for people that are trying to recover. They look at this as an opportunity, right? So are we going to be dealing with drug dealers in the area? Is there going to be drug dealer violence in the area? Are we inviting gang violence in our area? These are things we have to think about. I don't want to tax our first responders any more than they're already taxed. I get concerned about their welfare and their mental health because I'm proud of our first responders, and I'm comfortable when I see them going up and down the bridge and up and down Federal. It's comforting to me. I don't want these guys and gals stressed. The final thing that I'll just bring up, and this is 30 seconds, is the needles. I just want to tell you guys that the needles that are seen in town HIV can survive in a used needle for up to 42 days. If you step on that needle, your grandkid steps on that needle, one of the school kids steps on that needle, there's a potential infection there. I don't like that. You guys, that's all I have. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Riley, and I just wanted to clarify a statement that Brian made earlier. Did I understand he said they do not do needle exchange or harm reduction?
Yes, that is what he said.
On the main CDC website, they are listed there for both, if anybody would like to see it. Main CDC.
I can answer that.
Yes.
Please do.
Yeah.
On the main CDC.
So, yeah, so the main CDC offers licenses to places for agencies to do work in very, very specific locations. So, as already been mentioned tonight, we provide those services in Portland, in specific areas of Portland where we're permitted to do it. Anything outside of that is extra legal. So that's the only place where we are licensed to do it.
But I thought you said you did not do either one of those earlier tonight. I'm just clarifying.
I did not.
Main CDC. Yep. Right there.
Yes, sir.
My name is Dick Zig, and I want to speak on the fear factor. I moved here from DC, Washington DC. It's a good place to be from. There's all kinds of bad things happening down there one way or another. And, I moved out to the Maryland suburbs and where I grew up in Langley Park. My brother told me, you don't want to go there anymore. I've talked to other people who say you don't want to go there anymore. There's things that happen to big cities that we don't. I moved to a small village to get away from that. I want us all to enjoy that without the fear. I want my wife to walk the dog without fear. As an example of what can happen to increase the fear factor, I work at Ames True Value. I talked to Wayne April this morning. Go to this meeting tonight. What can you tell me? He said, last Wednesday, he was there. The guy's workaholic. He was there at 2:30 in the morning, dark out, hot and humid, right? He wanted to open up the back rooms and stuff, because we have pallets and pallets of stuff that needs to stay dry and got to get the fans going and have the place open up. He looked out front, one of the sheds out there was a light on out there. I said, why is there a light on out one of those sheds? There was a guy out there with a flashlight walking around. So he went upstairs, looked at the cameras, because there's screens up there. You can see every bit of the place. And the guy's walking around with a flashlight all around the store. He texted one of our employees next to the Wisconsin Police Department, said, you on still on yet? Yeah, I'm on till 4 o'clock. Can you start sometime this morning? A little while later, he got a text back from me and said, I'm over Wisconsin Ford. The same, I picked up, stopped this guy. He's walking around Wisconsin Ford with a flashlight at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, where are you going? He was going to St. Philip's, and he walked all the way from Auburn. Wow. We're creating a magnet here. I don't want that happening in my town. I don't want my wife to fear for walking the dog. I don't want to have to feel like I gotta carry a weapon around when I'm walking the dog at night. That's not what I want to live for. Let's not get this thing going.
Excuse me, before you start, could you repeat your name, please?
Sorry,
Your name?
Dick Zig.
What is it?
Dick Zig,
Thank you.
59 Federal Street.
I guess it's kind of a good time, a follow on to some of these other conversations. Oh, Mike Riley, 18th Federal. You know, I'm an engineer, so when I look at stuff, I look at details, and I've read everything we've received on this. And I look at what has been said to us, not what I'm creating. So what I'm gonna tell you is, as a lead on, it's a number thing here. I mean, and out of their own application, when you do their math in the first year, they said they're gonna do 2 to 3 support meetings, you know, hosting 10 to 15 people, while others are 2 to 3 participants. It's said in another section that they're gonna have somebody on 40 hours a week. So you can kind of coincide to, okay, if I'm not doing the group meetings 2-3 times a week at 15 people, then I'm doing 2 to 3 people for the other 2 days, just to create a number to it. In their first year, they expect to bring in, basically, for counseling, 51 people a week, okay? Let me clarify that all their documents present, and I'm sure it is, they work within the Hub 3 region. The Hub 3 region is from up mid-coast, Hub 3 mid-coast, including, I may say it wrong, Sagadahoc, Knox, Lincoln, Waldo, and towns of Hartswell and Brunswick. So they aren't just working, I know we've had all this communication about concerns for this town. I'm 100% behind that. We've had friends with issues. You know, this is a real problem. But for us to be bringing in, and that's in the first year, in the second year, they said they expect 1 group meeting a day. So this number of 51 a week is gonna go to 75, 80 a week from all over the Hub 3 region. So these people are coming in from everywhere. It's not just our people and our concerns. We're now, and he's exactly right, that it's an attraction point. They don't know what they're coming to. They just have heard it's a treatment place, has access to food, clothing, sleeping, you know, help, and all this. But then I already heard him say, which actually makes me more worried, that yeah, if they're high or something, no, you can't be here. Where are they putting them? They're putting them right back onto my street on Union, and they're gonna be roaming around there because that's what they did to get up there. So, you know, there's just a lot of global issues concerned with this. And the number count that comes from the application, I didn't invent it, that's where these numbers come from. I'd also like to know, which he could probably answer, is these clients or these people come in, are any of them referred by the courts or anything else for treatment? In other words, a guy gets DWI, he's got to go for a license training. Well, I'm sure some of these people are being told in a court condition that, no, you got to go to treatment and here's the places you can go to. Well, are any of those, you know, felonies? I mean, how do we know what's coming in here in that number count? Yeah.
That's a question, not a rhetorical question. So.
No, it's not, yeah, it is.
We're gonna turn the air back on because it's getting really hot in here, so just please speak even louder.
That's a win for everyone. Yeah, so our 2 biggest referral sources are healthcare centers and recovery residences or sober homes. So if a new person is gone into a sober house, it's not they're often required to participate in volunteering, community service, groups, that kind of thing, so it's a natural connection. Healthcare centers, if they've identified that someone is experiencing a substance use challenge or is in recovery. Someone mentioned earlier about the medication assisted treatment, which is there are providers around here. There's way better outcomes of people engaged in pro-social community activities, so we get those referrals. We've never gotten referrals from the court, mainly because we don't operate, again, as a licensed substance use treatment agency or licensed mental health agency, so we don't really rise to the bar of programmatic accountability, because also we have that sort of open door, like, we don't keep track of people for someone else. We just keep track of people's attendance and their participation for the purposes of the data that we do. But a court wouldn't be comfortable with our program. They do, they send people to treatment centers and that kind of thing. But we are, I think it's a good chance to correct the language, because I think we've been called a lot of things that I understand it's a misunderstanding, because there's not a lot of information out there in the world about this. We are a recovery community center, not any of the 3 or 4 other things like drug treatment and all those other things that courts do refer to. We're a recovery community center, which there's one in the YMCA in Maine, and there are other places like that. So hopefully that answers the question.
While you're standing there, if you could confirm, and it was through your own documents and everything else, but you are going to accept people in the whole Hub 3 area, is that correct? Well, you said it in your own documents.
So
your application.
So Lincoln County is our mandate for this program. What we're really designing to do, and this is for us a very low, if it gets passed, it's a very low rent scenario compared to what we had previously. And that's very intentional, because we want to be able to have a couple of sort of satellites and footholds in other areas where we have places to come in out of the cold. Could be a church, could be a community center, but our bandwidth is only Lincoln County. And people are allowed to come in, but there's, like in Bath, currently, like everyone who attends our program is either walking from the downtown area, or we have a little van service that just picks up around the outskirts of Bath. And in Boothbay Harbor, when we were there, it's actually one of our challenges, is that we served Boothbay Harbor really well. We had only Boothbay residents. And again, transportation is always an issue. People don't come to us unless it's sort of part of their life rhythm, and it's supportable and feasible. So we just don't have that kind of reach. I wish there was a way to do that, but we don't.
And all I'm going by is your documentation.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, we are in Hub 3, in the sense that this is Hub 3 for certain ways the state breaks it up. But the ways that the state breaks up these catchments is we're simply Lincoln County. That's the only thing we serve with this program.
Oh, because your apartments, guess what?
So yeah, the apartments are on the other topic, right?
And they are, but the reference was still made.
Mike, can you make sure you're?
The reference was still made to the Hub 3, that you were gonna respond to Hub 3 area. I'm just going by what I'm reading.
I'm not sure what that is. If it's in there like that, it's not correct. I don't remember that language.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, I think I've done what I intended, other than, I guess at the end of all this, I'd just like to make a recommendation to the board. I mean, potentially, this is a major issue. Everybody agrees with that. I think there's been a major issue communication-wise. I'm personally, I don't think I need to see a yes or no, but I think we need to take a pause in a moratorium standpoint so that we can put a committee together and figure out all these things that are going on. And that when we write it correctly. That's all I'm asking. Whitefield's doing the same thing right now. I mean, you guys need to do a moratorium, and so we can get together. So when it's approved correct.
So I'd like to pause there just for a second. I'm gonna be honest, I came into this meeting not loving this, but feeling as though there was no legal reason to deny the license, and I was gonna go into why that is. I completely agree that communication has been a problem. There is still nothing that is false, misleading, or a misrepresentation on the application itself on face value. However, tonight, at least for me, has raised more questions than answers, to be frank. I will only speak for myself in terms of, I look at business licenses in terms of all of the reasons why we can deny or approve them based on the ordinance, as well as if there are any concerns by the department's heads. They have to go through that process. Amistad has done that. I cannot morally or ethically deny or approve based on whether I like the idea or not. That being said, I would like to propose that we table, and not that I have the power to mandate this, but I would like to see some more effort in terms of at least one more community meeting that is hosted by the church and or Amistad to answer some of these questions, and we can be present at that, because I just feel like even tonight, there have been a couple of misleading statements. I know you're not trying to be malicious with that, and I was at one of the meetings and there were misleading statements after that, and that really bothers me because I think there is a need for this, and I'm not sure this is the greatest place to put it, but what worries me is what Karen said in terms of, I don't have a huge level of trust right now with Amistad as an organization, and I'm sorry to say that publicly, but that's where I'm at right now. Bill?
I was considering the same thing. I'd like to make a motion that let me start again. On the application, the planner makes a correct case that it's allowable in that area. However, I don't think people want it. The current church has a program that's, they said was successful. What do we need another one for? But I think that we ought to take a step back. I'd like to table this until the last meeting in September for everyone to cool down. Maybe Amistad would like to look around for some other places to go where they're more welcome. That's my motion.
Can I ask why September?
It's the cooling off period.
I wouldn't want to set a date on it. I wanna.
Can you speak up into the mic?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm gonna echo everything you said, Sarah. I agree with everything you said. And I would also like to say that, where this program, where it's been spoken to us today that there are limits on what they can and cannot do. It's obvious that they are doing these things in other areas, so I would not like to give a business license to somebody or any organization right now and see it morph into something else 6 or 8 or 10 months down the road. So I'm not ready to vote on this either, unless there are some very strong guidelines and restrictions placed on the license as well.
I mean, I would like some more details, I guess. I'm not trying to railroad you guys. I have a lot of great respect for St. Philip's. As many of you know, I'm a part-time preacher, and affiliated with the Congregational Church, and we're great partners. And I know that this has been a difficult process for everyone involved, but ideally, I would like people to feel a bit more comfortable about this before it goes through. And I feel like there are conversations that need to be had and questions that need to be answered, and I think that needs to be done in a timely manner in terms of, I feel like we were at this point when we were having those couple of meetings at St. Philip's, and I was hopeful that there were more meetings that were going to happen, and to my knowledge, they did not, so.
You asked why I said September. It gives Amistad time to look around for some other place, see if they can go somewhere else.
Dennis?
As you know, this decision is yours to make and not mine. But it is my job to advise this board. That is part of why I'm here. I agree that I think this meeting tonight raised a lot more questions in my mind than it did answers. And my advice to you would be to table this, to ask Amistad to come back with a written, detailed plan as to how this entire process is gonna work. I know we've heard them say they're going to deal with X by doing Y or something along those lines. But I would like to see something in writing that says, if somebody shows up, they're high, they're not gonna be stuck, because I live on Union Street, I live just down the road. But I would like to see, there's a plan in place to deal with that. There's a volunteer that's going to come pick them up, take them to the drug recovery center or wherever they need to go, and they're not just gonna be going around town. I think those details are missing, and that my advice to you is to make that request of them before you take this up here.
So Bill, would you add that to your motion?
Yes.
Figure it out, Jen.
Okay, so it's a motion to table the business license decision until September, the last meeting in December,
Second meeting in September.
contingent upon a more detailed plan provided by Amistad. Does that cover?
I'll second it.
So that would be September 19th.
September 19th.
9/19.
Yeah. I'll-
Is there anyone else for me to respond or it's fine either way?
Yeah. Go.
Quick, very quickly. Sorry, it's easier to sit since I'm tall. I appreciate and value your response to this. I just want to respond really quickly to the question of engagement. And as you mentioned, you were at one or maybe both of the meetings that we did hold. I just want to say, engagement is very much a two-way street. And I think that the round of applause that was offered when the suggestion was that Amistad could look at other places and just get out and discuss it is sort of indicative of the tenor of the dialogue we've been on the receiving end of. And I also just want to say that what this looks like from another perspective, and I don't expect this to change anything about your resolution tonight, is a really effective campaign to block something. And it's sort of playbook, and it's like taking every single word and really manufacturing it so that it leads to a determined end. And I'm sorry, but it feels like that. There's been no reception like this for any other program of this sort in Maine. They've been welcomed because everyone knows we have a drug problem. A person stood up here, the healthcare provider, and basically just described the problem of substance use, which is here. Not saying like they're gonna bring this here, just saying it's here. We're part of a solution to that. So a lot of people, a lot of towns come together and say, and it's free, and you're not asking anything of the community, wonderful, welcome. Nobody has done anything other than, including us, where we've done this, where we set up these centers. So I'm not gonna pretend it's not disappointing. It is, I respect the process a great deal, but I appreciate you allowing me to say that. Thank you.
This issue was part of it because I've seen a lot of people on both sides be extremely condescending to each other, and disrespectful, and it's disgusting, frankly. This is a difficult issue. It has not been communicated well. Even tonight you said no needles, and then it's just misleading. I know it's not a lie, but it's misleading. So that's what I'm. So I would really hope that everyone would try to pull together and have an open mind and try to between now and September so that we can be in a better place. I love this town that I just decided to come back to. And I really hope that this issue doesn't prove me wrong in this respectful place. And that is literally to everyone, not just in this room, but outside this room. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for the most part for being respectful, for putting all your points out there. I appreciate that. I wish more people would come to me, frankly. I think we have a resolution at the moment to table. I think I could speak for all of us that we would more have to assist in the communication in terms of setting up meetings or whatever. But I'd like to come to better, or at least feel a little bit more comfortable Was there a second? Okay, and seconded. Pending a plan from Amistad. It's not in the motion, but there will be multiple opportunities to ask questions and have everyone. We're ready to vote. Calling for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Right. Yes, Susan. Okay, I'm seeing the audio went out. If you need the motion, we can send it to you over email later. We're tabling the business license until September 19th. Forgetting that or not. All right. Moving on to P&Z monthly finance. Any questions from the board? Dennis?
Just by way of an update on. Still probably have to keep those. Every budget came in under budget except for animal control. Which was over by.
I'll give you a 20. All right. Assessor business, property. Council agent company personal account number 34 in the amount of $353.41. Over for motion. Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? I will mention this, but my mistake, it has, you ran the plan. I just update, I was wondering, we'll be meeting and finding report, and we'll then, get the presentation to the select board at the next meeting. So you can expect the report that you're all